Hi everyone, I'm Salvo and I'm going to be comparing the i-Cybie and Aibo in this video. First of all, I've got a shout out. It's for Andrea Candy, the Psy, and Kim Nam Jun fan. Right, so these two dogs, well, clearly, obviously, the i-Cybie was loosely modelled around the Aibo, and from what I can work out and what I've always been led to believe, the i-Cybie was kind of like a budget robot dog for people who couldn't afford an Aibo but wanted one. They saw a niche in the market and they decided to fill it because Aibo was popular at the time. Now, as you can see just here from looking at the pair of them, the i-Cybie's legs are similar to Aibo's. Now, I'm talking about that they modelled it on the 210, which is most likely because the 210 was available at the time. The i-Cybie is a little bit chunkier and definitely sturdier than Aibo. Its movements are all very similar. We'll look at that in the next video when we see them both in action. Although I'll be using a different Aibo for that because Salvo's battery is quite old. So they both had a rechargeable battery and they both had several different sort of means of interaction. So the Aibo's got a head sensor and a back sensor. i-Cybie also has a head sensor and a back sensor, but it also has an additional back sensor that's kind of touch sensitive, so you can stroke along its back as opposed to it being a button like the one on its head. Aibo just had the two buttons. Aibo also has a chin sensor, which i-Cybie does not have. However, i-Cybie does have a nose sensor, so if you want to reprimand him, you tap him on the nose and that's how you tell him off. The eyes are both LEDs. Well, not LEDs, they're kind of like little light up things. I suppose they are LEDs, aren't they? Not LCDs, like Furbies. Yeah, so the eyes are also, although they're different, they kind of react in a similar way as well. So the i-Cybie's got red eyes, green eyes, and orange eyes, I think. Aibo's got red and green eyes. But it also has the bar on its head as well, which tells you when its battery's low or if it's in pickup mode. The pair of them are similar weights, I think. There's other sort of differences, such as the i-Cybie's paws are obviously different. I'm not as keen on the i-Cybie paws as the Aibo's because I like that they have these little toes. But understandably, if they're going to market it to kids, then it needs to be sturdier, and these are certainly sturdier than the Aibo ones. It doesn't have any paw sensors, unlike Aibo, which does. So Aibo is overall the more technological of the pair. i-Cybie also has like an infrared thing here, which stops it from bumping into objects and furniture. However, it still does. This one, when I went to Jane's house with my boyfriend to pick him up, the i-Cybie did actually get up and walk around, and he walked into things. So, whereas Aibo tends to walk into things if it's low light, but generally they're pretty good. I mean, Salvo's vision isn't brilliant, but it's better than Blue's vision, put it that way. So this is them from the front. Just turn them around, so from the side there. Unfortunately, Aibo does not stand up well by himself when he's not got batteries in, so I'll have to leave him sat down. But you can see that i-Cybie is, they're roughly the same size, but you can see i-Cybie is quite chunkier. He is bigger around here as well than Salvo. But you can see there how the leg joints work. They're all pretty similar. Also, i-Cybie does do a sort of, every so often when you put the batteries in, he'll do like a stretch routine, which is a little bit like what Aibo does when he wakes up. So it's just to make sure the mechanics and everything are working properly. The batteries load underneath in the tummy of the pair of them. So we turn them both over on their sides here. You can see this. That's what the bottom of the dogs look like. I don't have a charging station for i-Cybie, so I'm not entirely sure how it charges, but I know that you can get like a charging station. It enters this sort of charging mode, which is what mine did the first time I made a video of it. He entered charging mode, so his battery is obviously not so old that he can't tell you when he needs to be charged. And I think you place him onto the charging station, but he can also self-dock as well. Well, obviously I don't have a charging station. I don't have the software because it was additional software that goes into i-Cybie, what I discovered Remember when I said I didn't know what that was? Well, that's actually a dummy thing that they've just slotted in there. But you can put the additional software in there when you buy the charging station. And apparently in later models of i-Cybie, the charging station came with him. Whereas the Aibo, the original Aibos came with the charging station, but by the time the 210s came out, you had to buy the charging station separately. Also, it was more difficult for Aibo to get onto the charging station at that time. Certainly the 210s, I'm not sure if they even, I think they self-docked, but I'm not entirely sure. The 7 Series definitely self-docked, but they had to have like a big kind of cylindrical thing that's all different colours for them to see where the station was, and you had to put it a certain amount away from the wall, because I looked into it because my 7 Series has a station, and you need a lot of space to allow the Aibo to sort of see it, whereas the Aibos you can get these days, they just walk up to their charger and get on, and that's that. So the technology's come a long way. I haven't seen an i-Cybie get onto its charging station, so I'm not sure how long it takes or how accurate it is or anything like that, but it was a nice idea to have it, you know, sort of self-docking. I think that i-Cybie was one of the more advanced robots available to the public at the time, apart from Aibo. So it's kind of like more budget, affordable ones. But I mean, they were £100 over here. I remember seeing them in the shops, and that's still a lot of money back then to spend on a kid's toy for your kid, you know. Not every parent has that kind of money, except maybe at Christmas. i-Cybie did run for a few years. I think it ran for about 5 years before they finally retired them. So the other similarities it has, they both wag their tails. Both Aibo and i-Cybie. And they both open their mouths. Aibo's mouth is easy to open. I've not tried to open his mouth when he's... The thing is, i-Cybie, because he's for kids, yeah, his mouth won't open. Because he's for kids, when he's switched off, it's actually kind of hard to move all his bits and pieces, like his legs and stuff like that. And I've also noticed that if one of his legs moves in a funny way, or clicks or whatever, like that, he can quite easily get it back working again. There were some i-Cybie models that did have issues with the legs. I know because I had one a few years ago that I had to send back to the person I got it from. But generally I think they were quite, you know, well made and sturdy. I mean, they were made well enough for them to even be sort of still known now and for people to still want to buy them. So there's a piece of robotic history there. So that's really the sort of differences between these two. I mean, Aibo will always be the more advanced. i-Cybie, he's still very good. He's not quite as autonomous, but he's still very good. Oh, and another thing, his ears don't move, whereas Aibo's do, when Aibo's listening to you and stuff like that. Another thing with i-Cybie is when you put his batteries in, he turns on. When you take them out, he turns off. That's how you switch him on and off, is literally removing the batteries. And they recommend that you do not keep the batteries stored inside him. So I'm thinking that perhaps they did this whole thing so that you couldn't turn him off unless you took out the batteries, to get people to take the batteries out, so they didn't like flatten inside the dog or kind of explode inside the dog. It just helps the batteries last a bit longer. It's not a good idea to keep batteries inside Aibo, or indeed any robotic pet or robot, if you're not using it. But Aibo does have an on-off switch here, whereas i-Cybie, you literally have to take the batteries out to turn him off. i-Cybie's batteries take about 4 to 6 hours to charge. I mean, I had them charging for about 4 hours. They do get quite hot. The Aibo battery doesn't take, well, I'm not actually sure how long the Aibo battery takes, because I just pop it on the charging station and then, you know, whenever it's ready, but I think it's around the same time. But it doesn't get as hot. The i-Cybie battery does get very warm, so after you've charged the battery, wait for it to cool down before you put it in i-Cybie. So that's pretty much it. That's all the similarities and differences between these two. i-Cybie came in several different colours, as did Aibo. The Aibo colours were like special editions and things like that. And I'm not sure if the special edition colours cost anymore, but I don't think they did. As for i-Cybie, I think my favourite's probably the transparent one, but I'll probably never get my hands on one of those. I was lucky enough to get this one, to be fair, because they still go for quite a lot of money. And apparently 2 i-Cybies can communicate, and i-Cybie can also communicate to other Robo-Chi pets, so like Meowchi or Poochie, while Aibo, the 210s, can communicate with the 7 series and other 210s, which is pretty neat as well. So they've got the communication things in, which is similar to Aibo. So if you want to see more videos of my robot pets, you can click either of the boxes that come up below. If you want to check out my Etsy and New Monday stores, links are in the description. I make plushies and take commissions. Or you can buy me a coffee on Ko-fi. If you like what I do, all tips are always appreciated. That's it for this video. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep being awesome. This is Salvo signing off.